So Dirty Dave.
Yes, sir.
We're going on another adventure today.
Yeah, it's cold.
Yeah. It's a little brisk on this lovely January morning. But we're gonna go somewhere interesting that I personally have wanted to see for a long time. And I've been very enthusiastic about the last few weeks. Dave, why don't you tell us where we're going?
We are going to Concrete City.
In Nanticoke, Pennsylvania, Luzerne County. So, the story behind this place is, it used to be a mining town of sorts. Alright, so we're coming down this little goat path here. And we're gonna get our first good, cold, hard look at this place. You know, it's pretty much what I had imagined. All right, here we are at Nanticoke's Concrete City. Now, originally, these buildings were meant as housing for higher-end employees of the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad Company's coal division. I'm simply going to call it DLW from here on out. And these buildings were made entirely of concrete. I mean, everything. The floors, the walls, even the roof is a concrete slab. Now, this was originally built in 1911, and there was another company that took over somewhere in between 1911 and 1924 when it was ultimately abandoned. And these would have been duplexes, so you'd have two families. So one family on this side, right about here, there's the dividing wall, and you would have housing for another family over here. And these are actually multi-story. There's a second floor, and there's actually a basement down below. Now, being these buildings were entirely concrete, creeping dampness was a constant complaint that was going on. If you've ever been in an unfinished basement, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And some accounts I've actually read say that in the cold, dead bitterness of winter, you would actually get frost inside the walls of the building. It was that bad. Ultimately, in 1924, they would abandon this because, remember, this is built in 1911. They were still using outhouses, which would have been out back of each of these duplexes. And this place needed a newer, modern sewer system, and the owners at the time simply didn't want to spend the manpower, resources, and money to do it, so it was abandoned. Well, enough bread and butter historical facts. Let's get down to brass tacks. Let's go inside one of these and take a look. We're in the end of January and you can feel the walls are just cold and damp. I'd imagine it would be uncomfortable in a place like this. Out back there where Dave is actually looking is where the outhouses would have been located. All right, that's the ground floor. Let's head on up. Just watch your head. There's a real low ledge right there. There's actually a hole right above here. And that concrete actually looks like it's several inches thick, like 4 or 5 inches thick for the roof. And out there's the courtyard where we were just standing. there's the courtyard where we were just standing. Back in the day, I believe this would have been called international style architecture, which really became popular in the 1920s and 30s. And it was basically a lot of very square footprints, sheer faces, concrete pre-made, almost like bread and butter components like here. You can actually see where it's been cast in different sections. And very practical and pragmatic. In 1911, this would have supposedly been ultra-modern housing, but honestly, being in here and looking at it, tenement comes to mind. Actually, this is the dividing line right here between one family side and the other. Hi! Alright, we're on the second floor still. This is the front room. I'd imagine this would have been the master bedroom back in the day. And you'd have this nice window that would look out on the whole property. And at one point this would have been well kept. It would have been a nice lush lawn. There would have been a playground. I've seen photos of a fountain out front. This actually would have been a decent, fairly pretty community. And same thing, I'd imagine these walls would have been painted too for a little bit of aesthetic factor instead of just bare concrete. Time has not been kind to this place. Not at all. Future Mad Max again. That yellow line on the map you're looking at is the goat path we came down, and that's the direction we went to get to the building circled in red. We chose this one to take a tour of to show you because it was one of the more intact buildings here, and also the second story window offers one of the best unobstructed views of the whole residence, and that's actually where the panning shot you're watching was taken from. Stairway to heaven, meet the stairway to nowhere. All right, we're gonna head back down and take a look at this basement. Let's watch the head knocker. All right, without further ado, we're going down. Not in a fun way. Oh man. Oh, it's all kinds of caved in here. Well, I think I'm gonna trade cameras here for a second. It's rolling. So, this is all caved in. It's like a landslide down here. I really don't want to go in here, but I'll let you have a look. There's the window out there I was walking past. Here's a good hard look at the basement. Pretty straightforward, just like the rest of this building. All right, back up. Okay, moving on from the first building to the second building. I expect much of the same.
I use my elevator here, actually. To do the dramatic walk-by shot.
Oh yeah.
Got my new whip. Needs a little work. Just a little.
Well, Mr. Johnson, I believe we found out what's wrong with your car. There appears to be a slight lifter tick. Also, there's not much of it left.
The engine is intact though.
Yeah. And actually, as I understand it, there were a lot more cars that they would come out here and burn. And there's volunteers from the area that come out here and actually drag out a lot of the wrecks and clean up a lot of the trash too. This one right here, this one's seen better days. We're gonna pop our head in this one. I think I've actually seen a photo of this one with the floor missing. Alright, we're up on the second floor. Here's that roof that came down. Look at that. I'm not really going to go any further than this. But look what the passage of time has done. That's actually rather nice. Just ignore that part. So much of these buildings are the same. They're just in various states of disrepair and decay. You know, maybe a different color scheme for the graffiti.
Right, you gotta keep it fresh.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to think how long this is over 100 years standing.
Yeah, 1924.
Who knows if this is gonna survive another 100 years like this.
Exactly. Well, let's move on. So here's the next one over. This one's kind of interesting. Personally, I'm not going to hazard going under that. More than happy to look at it, though. You know, it's just really fascinates me how all of these have seemed to age differently.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem... It's so massive, the structures, that this had to fall naturally.
Yeah.
That if they couldn't blow up one of these houses with 100 sticks of dynamite, I don't think...
Which the story goes, they attempted one and failed, and that's why they abandoned the demolition. I want to point out the first few houses that we looked at were basically intact. And now as we work our way around to this corner, right here on the map, they're basically successively in worse and worse condition. Alright, so we're working our way back around to where we came in. We're going around the perimeter this time. And here's where you get some of the more interesting stuff. So this whole building is leaning that way. And actually, a lot of these are leaning pretty hard, especially this one. And then there's this one. This whole corner right here is sinking in substantially, probably a foot or more compared to the rest of the building. Yeah. Just to give you an example, I'm holding the camera level. So right now I'm holding the camera level, and that's how bad it's sloping in. So, just to highlight the era that these were built in 1911, the monthly rent would have been $8. In 2023 money, that's about $250. Things really were cheaper back then. And also a prerequisite of tenancy here would have been your primary language had to be English. 1911 was a different time. Just another fun little fact. This is located in Luzerne County, and Luzerne County is one of the 3 primary mining sources of anthracite coal here in Pennsylvania. There were 6 counties in total. This and Carbon were 2 of the biggest ones. I think we need to move away from the building. But there would have been Luzerne, Carbon, and I believe Schuylkill. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to look. But they were the 3 big counties that produced anthracite coal. But ultimately, the coal industry in Pennsylvania would decline sharply, and natural gas and oil would become more popular sources for home heating. So I think this is a pretty interesting trip.
Definitely interesting. Definitely something to see. You're from the area. This is just really unique.
Yeah. I know we mentioned this before, the Lehigh Tannery, but this is just one more skeleton of Pennsylvania's once mighty industry. And here it is crumbling before our very eyes. Very literally, we've actually seen a couple little pieces of grit from the roof fall down. I think I actually got hit by one in an earlier shot. So I think we're going to stay away from the roof for the time being. But this has been a very interesting trip, and it's going to be one more item off the list.
Yes.
So, before we wrap this up, and we pull the pin off the map, I want to send out a special thanks to all the volunteers that come out here and help keep this place cleaned up and drag out all the derelict, burned out, wrecked cars. And special thanks to Heather Truckenmiller over at Valley Girl Views, who did a absolutely astounding write-up of this place with a lot of good photos, including some period drawings of photographs. And of course, to Rusty Glessner over at PABucketlist.com for putting this on his list. All right, Dave, the battery's dying. Let's cut to the chase and pull out that pin.
Pin number 2 off the map.
Oh yeah. Well, Dirty Dave, that was certainly an interesting one, and I'm really glad we came up here. That's now our 3rd official location off the list of 31 abandoned places you can legally explore in PA.
So that being said, there's only 2 things left to do.
Stay mad.
And stay dirty.
All right.
Well, we know whose house this would have been.
Mine.
It's Max E's pad.
Coal mining is temporary. Wu-Tang is forever.